Hi, we're here to talk about the experiential learning cycle, first developed by David Kolb in 1984. And his proposition was that we learn from our experience, and there are 4 distinct ways in which we can think about that experience to contribute to our learning. And this is a natural process, it happens automatically, but if we're aware of it, we can make that process work work harder for us. So what I'm going to do is talk through the model, explain it, and then Charles, perhaps you and I can have a conversation to aid your reflection on the way that you learn, and then perhaps we can do a bit of a demonstration.
Yeah, sounds good.
Demonstration. Okay. So I'll just talk through the model first. This is a reinterpretation of the model, which I think makes it quite practical to work with your clients, and even for you to work by yourself with as well. The first element of it is doing. So we get involved in a variety of different activities at work. We complete on task, we go to meetings, we have conversations. So it's doing stuff at a very simple level. And once we've done stuff, there's an opportunity for us to reflect upon that doing. So to look back at the incidents perhaps of the day and say, well, what did I notice about the day? And how was I behaving? And how are other people behaving? What happened? And what were the consequences of what happened? So just do some reflection, looking backwards. And then make some connections. And these kind of connections are theories you have about what happened, what you might want to have happen in the future, whether your desires and aspirations are being met. So it's a preparatory section of the process to the next bit, which is deciding. So having made some connections, you can make then some decisions about how you're going to do stuff in the future, how you're going to do similar things, perhaps differently, in order to get a different order of result. So that's the model, and these words were created by Peter Senge, so an opportunity to see, I think, quite a practical version of this. So Charles, you heard that description, and clearly you and I worked with this before, so I'm wondering what you find yourself doing more or less of in your day-to-day activity.
So more doing, less reflecting. I like making decisions, so the deciding piece works. Connecting, I think I'm okay at. So I don't reflect as much as I believe I should.
Okay, so there's a kind of gravitational pull over here to this section of the model. Is
yes.
that right? Okay. So already we have some insight, perhaps, as to not just the activity that Charles is engaged in day to day, but also maybe what he prefers to do. So Charles, would that be a fair interpretation of what you've just described?
Yes, I mean, I get pulled into the doing piece. I don't step back and reflect much, and yeah.
So already there we have one of the perhaps most productive uses of this to help people understand where they might be missing opportunities to learn, and whether the pattern of their learning and the day-to-day activity that they're getting engaged in is helping them learn, and whether they're making the kind of decisions that are most productive for them. So getting the balance right in your learning process. The next useful way of using this is not just to plan for sessions, so you might be running a workshop or sitting down with a client and thinking about the kind of conversation that you want to have and how you might take them through the learning cycle, even if you don't share it with them. But it is also to share it with them and then perhaps have a conversation that's modeled on this process. So that's what we're going to do right now. So Charles, you've got a thought about just a very small topic that will help us demonstrate each part of this in turn. Is that right?
I've got a topic, yes.
Okay, so why don't you start talking about the topic, and then we'll guide the conversation using each of these 4 areas.
Certainly. So it's been a productive year from a business point of view, but within that I've spent a lot of time on a plane, too much long haul travel,
yeah.
And so consequently that's had an impact on a little bit on my health, more on family,
yeah.
And also part of my role in the business is one of strategy, and I just haven't been around to work with my colleagues around that.
Okay, so already quite a bit of stuff about what happened in the doing bit, what he actually did, but also some reflection on that as well. Talks about consequences and impacts as well. And it may be also that he's already thinking about what he might want to have in the future, but we'll see if we can slow him down a bit and go into each part of this model. So just moving up to this part of the model, Charles, what did you notice about last year and the kind of pattern of travel and the kind of consequences that it had. Talk more about that.
So it was very client-driven. So, and the main clients that I manage are international clients.
Right.
So it was good in one sense that clients wanted us to do projects with them. But what it meant was that I got probably too engrossed in those projects, which meant I spent too much time traveling.
Okay, so you noticed you were quite engrossed, too much time traveling as a result.
Yes.
What else did you notice about that pattern of travel last year?
Well, there was impact on family, so I spent less time at home, less time with family, which is never nice. So that I noticed. Also, that one of the important things about our culture is to be really quite connected to our teams and our people, and in many ways, because of my travel, I was less connected this year than previous years, which I didn't enjoy.
Okay, so I'm also wondering how you felt about last year too.
Well, it's at one level, I feel it was kind of the most successful year ever.
Okay.
And at another level, I feel disappointed in myself that I didn't manage my time and my resources in terms of travel as well as I could have done.
Okay. Any other thoughts about last year?
I wouldn't like another year like last year.
Okay. Okay. So we're already in a sense, making a decision about next year. Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you like it to be next year?
So I do enjoy travel, so some travel, but more contained. So I think what I should do and will do is look at my diary and make sure that I put in times for strategy meetings, for board meetings, for time with colleagues, and ring fence it so that client work, project work doesn't get pushed into those.
Okay, so some diarised time throughout the year, is that?
That's right.
Okay.
And make sure, for example, I put my holidays in and time off and weekends and things like that, because otherwise it'll just get blown out.
Okay. And you spoke also about wanting to connect with colleagues, is that right?
Yes.
So talk more about that.
Yeah, so got a great team, and part of my role is to try and support them. And I felt that I wasn't able to do that enough. It's just difficult with time zones. And so being able to have some more face-to-face time, being able to have some quality time with the teams, my colleagues, would be great.
And what might you decide in that area?
Well, I think for me it goes back to diarising. So put meetings in, plan meetings, make sure people know that they can't be bumped for client work.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing is around time. I think it would be useful also to minimize the amount of trips that I do. So, if I dream up an arbitrary number like no more than 30 flights a year or something like that.
Okay, so make a decision about the number of trips.
Yes.
Okay. And you said also not enough time with family.
Yes.
Earlier on when you were reflecting on your position last year. What kind of decisions might be emerging for you around that?
Well, if I do have to travel, I want to get a little bit more organised with combining family time with work time. So if I've got to, for example, go out to Asia, see if my wife will come with me so that we can kind of tag on a bit of holiday time.
Yeah.
So that's one option. I think the other option is to make sure that my weekends and long weekends are sacrosanct so that we do get some quality time together.
Okay, so again, a bit of ring fencing on that one.
Yes.
Okay, great. So you've got a number of decisions that you're moving forward. Some feel complete, some may require a little bit more thought. Is that a fair summary of where you've got to? Okay, great. You happy to stop there?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was just a walking through in a conversation of the different parts of this learning process. And useful to be aware of it in order to slow, in this case, Charles down long enough that he is reflecting, that he is making the kind of connections that make the quality of the decisions as good as they can be. So that's what we were doing here. And you may have noticed actually that I asked a question that was aimed at connecting, but actually Charles was starting to talk about decisions that were already emerging for him. And I think that's what you experience. People don't think in an ordered fashion. But having this map for yourself, even if you haven't showed it to the client, is very useful, very powerful. And the final point about this is that we use it when we're planning sessions with a client, either an individual, where we need to make sure that we're closing the learning loop, or we're planning a workshop, a training session, or indeed some team coaching as well, where we're needing to make sure that this learning cycle is in evidence. We're slowing down the client long enough that the decisions they make are of a good quality. And that's really the pointy end of this model. That's where it becomes really powerful. So we recommend it to you, and hopefully this has been a useful introduction to it.